Hi, today we are going to talk about applique, and I want to say before I start that this video is available for anyone to find on YouTube, but I'm making it specifically for the members of the Two Rivers Quilt Guild of the Easton Area Public Library, and I will be referring to things that apply simply to that group. So, scroll on if that won't suit you. Are talking about applique. This is something we're going to be using in block 9, and there are so many ways to do this that's why I'm going to do 3 videos on different aspects of the job. But this is the introduction. So I want to talk to you about what applique is and why and when you might want to use it. Applique comes from the same root as apply. And it means making something and applying it to the top of another piece of fabric. So you're cutting your block background to the size of the block, and then you're putting things on top of it and sewing them down. Now, the reason you would want to do that is generally if you want something with a lot of curves in it, that's not a repeated pattern. So for instance, if you want to make flowers or birds or hearts or fish that are going to, you want them to look natural, you can make all of those things pieced, but they're a little more stylized. This will give you the natural curves of things. And usually there's not a pattern for these that you buy. I mean, you can, but then you're stuck again. But if you want to make something, you don't have to be able to draw it. What I do, let's take a look up here at these 2 blocks. These are wool on wool applique, which is another process, but the idea of how I made the plan is the same. I wanted to make a desert fox. So the first thing I did was I went online and I looked for photos of desert foxes. But I'm not good enough to look at a photo and then draw it. So that I do 2 other things. I look for the silhouette. I type in desert fox silhouette image, and you'll get outline shapes. Even better, I do desert fox children's coloring pages, and I get piles of fox coloring things with those bold outlines. And with the combination of looking at the actual photos, the silhouettes, and then the coloring pages, I pick how I want to make that fox, and then I'm able to draw it. I draw it on the dull side of a piece of freezer paper. I gently press it onto the wool in this case, and I cut around the edge of it. On this one, on the Roadrunner, he's not finished yet. On the Roadrunner, I wanted to get him running. So I actually started with videos, and then I went through still photos, coloring pages, and silhouettes, and then I copied to make him. So you can look up flowers, any kind of flower, any kind of fish, and design how you want your block to look. So now that you know what you want, here's how you go about making an applique. We're going to come down to the little tray table here, and I'm going to put on my glasses and let you take a look at this. I decided I would make a heart because a heart has all of the things I want to teach you. It has fairly strong curves, it goes in, and it has a point. And you need to know how to do all of those things in order to applique it. The traditional way to make an applique is called needle turn, because you quite literally turn the fabric with your needle. I am horrible at this. I never do it. So I am going to make a complete fool of myself here. I made this by folding a piece of notebook paper in half, drawing half a heart and cutting it. You know, this is not snazzy work. Then this one, I just pinned onto a piece of fabric and cut about 1/4 of an inch. Certainly not more than 1/4 of an inch, but you do want to give yourself some room to play. And I placed that on my fabric and cut that. So now I have this heart, and I want to put it on this background. Oh, this is just going to be awful. So I use applique needles. The brand doesn't matter. This is a size 9. You can honestly use any needle, but an applique needle has a narrower eye so that it shows less, it makes a smaller hole when it goes through the fabric. It's also a son of a gun to thread, so just be aware. And you can use any needle you own. I like for my applique to use 50 weight thread. It's the same thread I use to long arm. It's quite a light, thin thread. I like it because it doesn't show very much. It's also a little more difficult to use, and it's not necessary. So when I'm going to put this down, the first thing I want to do is fold under about 1/4 of an inch on an easy spot, kind of the straightest line you've got. And coming from behind, I'm going to put my needle into the fabric and come through. I'm using a contrasting thread. Normally for this, I would use a dark blue thread. You don't choose your thread to match your background. You choose your thread to match your applique. That will show the least. So now I have this coming out of the spot that's about 1/4 inch. And I'm going to cheat a little at the beginning and fold it with my finger. And I'm going to go into the background at the same spot. And I'm going to make a small stitch and come up along the fold on the applique, so that when I pull it through, I have the tiniest stitch here, and I'm moving, if you can see that little guy, along the back. And now I've come up, so I'm in the same position I was when I started. And I'm going to take my needle, and this is why it's called needle turn. I'm going to push this under. Oh dear. There we go. And I'm going to make another little stitch. Now, could I make bigger stitches? Yes. I could make a nice, quite a bit bigger stitch that would work just as well. It depends on whether you're going to put it in a fancy show and try to win a prize or not. And this certainly isn't going in. So now I've done that. I want to show you the back now. Again, pulling that tight. I made a bigger stitch there. It's fine. So now I do another needle turn here. I push this. See, to me this isn't very easy. You push this under. And I get the other hand in there. And then I do another go right in exactly where I came out. It's a blind stitch. Some people call it a hemming stitch, and I come up right there. And then I come through again. And this is starting to lie here as a heart. Now, what happens when I get here? Now I've got, I'm just going to move myself right to here. I'm going to come up through here as if I've just sewn that down. Here we are. Now, what I want to do, obviously, is I want to get this underneath when I get there. So I'm going to try to come up at the edge of where the finished heart is going to be, about a 1/4 inch up from here. I'm going to make a stitch that brings me up there. There's a little knot in that thread now, which is just too annoying. And then the plan here is with that stitch in place, I'm going to put it in again in the exact same place. I'm just going to go a little round circle right around that. So that is sturdily attached there. And then I'm going to needle turn this piece under. Yeah, like that. Pull this straight down at that point, come up into the point again. You can see why I don't do this. And if you're saying to yourself, I have no idea what you just did, there are 2 people in our group who do needle turn very well. It's Andrea and Anna. Both do needle turn applique much better than I will ever be able to do it. And we just go around, and it's much harder, as hard as I'm making this look, it's harder as you get to a curve because you're putting more fabric underneath as you go. Now, I don't know whether any applique that I do, I cut a tiny little slit, not the full 1/4 inch, but just a tiny little slit where a point goes in. Needle turners are probably so skilled that they don't even do that. I'm not sure. So I will give you a link to needle turn applique so that you can see someone who actually does it well do this. But first of all, one of the benefits of it is that it's very traditional. You've done it the way, they did it in covered wagons and during the Revolutionary War. Probably Betsy Ross did it for the stars on the flag. So it's a traditional skill. It doesn't hurt to learn it. And it leaves no excess anywhere. There are no glues, there are no chemicals, there are no holes cut in anything, and you just have a beautiful heart attached to your fabric. If you are saying there is no way I am doing that in this lifetime, don't panic, because in the next video, I am going to show you 3 more ways to do it and tell you of a 4th that I don't have the supplies for, but is also easy to explain. So I will be back in the next video, and check that out if this is too much for you, or if you like the idea of putting time into this and getting good at it, I'll share a video link with you, and you can also talk to